I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome to our meeting of Health, Education, Entertainment, Neighborhoods, Parks, Arts, and River Committee, HENPAR. And it's just after 2 o'clock. Apologize to folks who are here at 1 o'clock. We did pass a historic monumental campaign finance. Well, we moved it forward in City Council today. So, and that had a very long and robust debate, so I appreciate you guys sticking around. So we had to start this committee late, but today's a historic day in the City Council in the City of LA. But this meeting is now called to order. I'd like to thank my colleagues, Councilmember Price and Councilmember O'Farrell, for joining me as well. I'd like to remind anybody in the audience who does want to speak on any of the items today on the agenda or during public comment to please sign up at the kiosk right outside the door. You could do that now. And at this point, I'm going to take multiple public item comment cards as well as general public comment. So, are these the folks? So for those who have been here for the first time, this is where I'm going to take up individuals who signed up for pretty much all the items, as well as public comment. And I want to apologize in advance for those who are here for the first time. This is First Amendment rights and your freedoms in action. So, okay, can I have Patricia, or, yeah, I think this is Herman. Herman?
I understand we may have some folks in the overflow room also.
I'm sorry?
I understand we may have some folks in the overflow.
Yeah. So if we could have Herman, and then Wayne Spindler, and Antonio Ramirez.
There you go.
So we will give you 2 minutes for all the items you signed up for, and 1 minute for general public comment.
Bitch with the bitch and a half. Yeah, I'm not the bitch with the bitch and a half.
Second Amendment, item number 3, Counseling Advocacy Program for Second Amendment, NRA. Nigger with real attitude is here. Then you go to item 4, Standard Agreement for Senior Community Service. Fuck seniors and fuck your homelessness and fuck HHH Employment Program. Then we go to item 5, which is very important about a public right-of-way regarding Wesson the terrorist and Krikorian the Armenian who claims the Turks took away his rights. Fuck you. You took away my rights in implementation of an infrastructure project regarding Los Angeles. Fuck the film industry. How about fuck that stupid asshole Gabay, Gabay, and his fucking black hood of Obama Boulevard regarding the square, nigga. What about it? Then you go into item number 1, Mr. O'Farrell, regarding Mr. Oh, I'm sorry, it's Miss Natalie Samarajan, whatever the fuck that means. El Pueblo was a beautiful place till you put those fucking homeless people in El Pueblo parking lot. You took away my parking. I'm disabled. You had 3 handicap parking areas there, and now I can't fucking NRA MOU to understand why you taking away people's fucking public parking for some fucking homeless people that the fucking faggot mayor, Eric Garcetti cocksucker, allowed for homelessness and escalated into a crisis. Well, you dumb white nigger Jews are paying these fucking dumb assholes to put this fucking shit into order, and they can't do it because we allow Adele Richardson, a.k.a. Price,
Mr. Herman.
fuck things up. What about my general public comment?
That was included 3 minutes, right?
No, it's one more.
One more. All right, one
Damn
more.
right, fool. You damn right, Rue. You're a fool. Regarding fucking immigration, you fucking asshole. This is America. Fuck the North Koreans.
It's got to be on
Fuck
topic.
Iran because
Mr.
they're here in
Mr.
my
Herman,
country.
Got to be on topic.
They're in my country demanding the rights to programs and services regarding the film industry, regarding the fucking bullshit of quality, California quality outdoor improvements. Fuck you. Get the fuck to your country and fuck up your outdoors. And at the same time, you're here to fucking protest against me under the NRA, National Rifle Association for Second Amendment on item 3. Fuck you too, Rue, you fucking rapist from UCLA. Go Bruins. Then, once again, regarding the right-of-way, we are victims from this Holocaust of LA's gentrification to strip us of our rights under homelessness. Fuck you. 42
Thank
USC
you. Thank you, Mr. Herman.
1983.
Next, we have Wayne Spindler. Wayne? Okay, Wayne, Antonia. We have Antonia, and we also have someone who signed up as City Watch. GGGGG. I don't think such a person exists. So, Antonia?
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and consolidate number 3 and number 4 items. I would like to really expound heavily on the elderly. The elderly people are suffering so much abuse, so much violence, so much theft, and home invasion robberies. They have no quality of life. A lot of them also experience bogus vendors and solicitors, and basically they take all their money. We've got to do something for the elderly. As I approach those years myself, I am now seeing that because we have no public safety in this city, thanks to the faggot Eric Garcetti and his goddamn city attorney Michael Few, who do both need a goddamn matzo ball laced with jalapeno up their asses. What they need is to take care of the citizens, not the wetbacks and not the gangbangers, but these people, the elderly, the American people who went through so much pain and suffering. They are now, many of them end up losing everything and end up ultimately living on the streets. I am homeless by design, and I now know what goes on out there. So I'm privy to all the criminal actions that are going, the gangs, you've got predominantly the niggers
Mr.
and the
Ramirez-
gangbangers.
Mr. Ramirez, let's get back on topic.
Yeah, well, again, we're talking about the elderly. There's a lot of abuse against the elderly, and we need to take care of the elderly. And going to number 5, ladies and gentlemen, fuck Hollywood and the bisexual twisted entertainment industry, where they advocate and glamorize drugs, unsafe sex, orgy bonfires, violence, sodomy, pedophilia. And again, and the destruction of America. They don't know how to make wholesome movies. Look at the youth today. Look at the youth today. They're all on drugs, man. They don't know they're catatonic. They walk around LA doing, they're just sleeping on the streets, and all they want is their drugs. What a sad state of affairs we are in. Is that going to be your legacy, politicians? Look at the children, look at the youth, look at them. I look at them out in the streets, I see them drugged and drunked out, and I say to myself, God, thank you. At least I had a healthy, wholesome youth. I was happy when I was a child. I didn't walk around like that. I feel sorry for these kids in America. They're all on drugs. That's sad. All of you are responsible for these young kids and their parents for not taking care of them properly or being too involved in all these charity groups. God bless America. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I just simply say, fuck Hollywood. We need to do something about Hollywood. And it's not about being racist against the gays and lesbians. God knows they're fucking bullies, and they basically preach and ram down their ideology down our throats. I am heterosexual, and I am grateful. But having said that again, we need to clean up Hollywood, all of Hollywood, and the entire bisexual industry. The entertainment industry has done so much harm to America and the world. We need to clean it up, politicians. You need to put your foot down and say, clean up, make wholesome movies like The Sound of Music. Let's start there. Oh, God bless The Sound of Music.
Thank you. Thank you.
n-
So that was, your time has expired, Mr.
Do I get my 1 minute?
No, you had your 1 minute.
Oh,
It was 3
okay.
minutes total. Thank you
Well,
so very
God
much.
bless America.
Thank you.
We would like to hear The Sound
So
of Music.
that is,
That's the public comment and the multiple
did you sign up?
I did, yeah.
What did you sign up as?
Translated for 5 and 6.
No, I didn't call you up. What did you sign up as?
Corey Schmidt. You might have gotten mistranslated. I had an issue this morning.
So you signed up for number 5, 6, and general public comment?
Just 5 and 6. Yeah.
Just 5 and 6. Oh,
We're just taking general.
so I could take you on 5 and 6, or I could take you now if you want to have you 2 minutes now. Sure. Come on in, Corey.
Corey Schmidt. Okay. Check. Is it working? Yes? Okay. All right. So, I have 2 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and give us all a moment of silence to drink all of that in. Just a moment of silence.
You have to address 5 and 6. Item number 5 and 6.
Okay, so now that we've had a moment to calm down a little bit, just wanted to bring up, okay, so number 5 is infrastructure projects to support the film industry. I didn't have a chance to look at it extremely well, but I wanted to ask what projects, like what are we thinking? I'm sure that's probably what's going to be brought up with this motion, but I was thinking, are we extending the Walk of Fame? Maybe I was thinking public art projects would be cool. Number 6 is about the paid parental leave program, and I just wanted to express my support for that. I wanted to know, though, are men included in that, or is it just a women's thing? And then the second thing was, who's paying for it? Is it a city funded, or do you think it'll be private sector? I'd be down for public, but I just wanted to know. And that was it.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. I also have Nancy Moreno and Sarah Jane Schwartz who signed up for public comment as well as for item number 2. Would you want to wait till item number 2 comes, or do you want to take your 2 minutes now, or?
I would like to do my general comment now.
Sure.
When you're discussing items.
Sure, why don't you come and take your 1-minute general public comment? We'll finish that and close that up. So, and Nancy Moreno, do you want to come up and do your 1-minute public comment?
I'll do mine at 2.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Ms. Dinah Hunt, if you're here. Dinah Hunt for general public comment. Dinah Hunt. Okay. State your name.
Sarah Jane Schwartz. I recently attended a public hearing of multi-city agency groups formulating a new law to regulate tour buses. Street segments will be exempted from tour buses based on a simple yet most important criteria: safety. If a street falls under at least one category and its conditions, it is exempted. The streets in Hollywoodland do not fall under a single category. They fall under at least 12. And in addition, an access point into the park at the end of Beechwood was court-ordered closed to the public as the city stipulated it never was a public entrance, and the judge found it was dangerous. Shockingly, 2 days after the hearing, I heard from Councilman Rue that he is moving ahead with tour buses at this location, ignoring both the court order and the city's own criteria for safety. We have no sidewalks on our narrow winding street. Tour buses will add to the vehicular and pedestrian congestion in the streets. They are dangerous. The tour van idea in Hollywood was thrown out by the city several years ago. What's new is that congestion and fire conditions are even worse. Why
Ms.
is
Schwartz,
Councilman
thank you.
Rue
Thank you, Ms.
pushing
Schwartz.
ahead with
I have
these
to be fair
negligent
with everybody
ideas
for a
when there's
minute.
other
Thank
safe
you.
entrances elsewhere in
Ms.
the park?
Dinah Hunt? Is Ms. Dinah Hunt available? If we could really keep the order in the room, because I have to be consistent. So, if you have an outburst, then you could raise your hand instead of clapping. If you have an outburst, I have to ask you to leave, because as you will see, we have regular occurrences where there are outbursts that you would not appreciate, so I have to be consistent. So all outbursts have to be treated the same. So if you could keep your applause. If you are supportive of something, you could raise your hand, but you can't applause. Thank you so very much. So there's no Ms. Dinah Hunt. Thank you for that. And just for clarification, the tour bus ordinance is to restrict tour buses, which we've been working on, and it will be restricting tour buses all equally throughout the hillsides, and we're waiting on that to come on out, and it will be restrictive, not encouraging tour buses. Thank you for that. So that closes general. Okay, Terry. Oh, this is not item number 1, right? Okay. So that closes general public comment. So colleagues, if there's no objections, I'd like to recommend that we take items number 3 and 4 on consent. Thank you. So that'll be the order. So we will take item number 1. Darrell, do you want to read that into the record?
Sure. Item number 1 is a communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Ms. Natalie Samaran to the El Pueblo de Los Angeles Historical Monument Authority for the term ending June 30th, 2022. Ms. Samaran will fill the vacancy created by Nicholas Roxborough, who has resigned.
Thank you. And Ms. Samarajian, thank you so much for joining us today, and congratulations on your nomination. And I just want to say that you've done incredible work as Executive Director of CORO in Southern California, the California Women's Law Center, and Neighborhood Legal Services Center before that. You're clearly highly qualified, and I have no doubt you'll be a tremendous asset to this very commission. So I'm just going to ask you 2 quick questions and open it up to my colleagues. Can you just talk to us about your previous experiences and the value that those experiences will bring to the operation at El Pueblo?
Absolutely, and thank you, council members. My background in organizational leadership, community service, community engagement, civic service, I believe will all contribute to my commission service. I'll also bring my legal background to support my commission service. I think what will most serve my commission service is the love that I have for our great city.
Thank you. And on this commission, do you have any particular interest or priorities or goals that you want to pursue while on this particular commission?
My goal is to support the organization's strategic plan and strategic vision, including expanding the visibility of the area, supporting its sustainability, marketing, and making sure that this invaluable historic site it draws visitors and Angelinos alike with the value that it really presents to our community.
Great, thank you. Colleagues? Go ahead.
If you don't mind, Mr. Chair, I'll just take a moment to thank you for stepping up and volunteering for such a very important and historic site where the city began. And so I think someone with your background, and it's fairly complicated there and has quite a history of a lot of sorting out needs to still happen. But it's a great team over at El Pueblo, and I think your expertise will come in quite handy. So we appreciate you stepping up to volunteer on this commission, volunteer your time and your expertise. We appreciate that very much, Ms. Samardzian. Thank you.
Thank you, council member. I'm honored.
I too just want to thank you for your willingness to serve. I think the mayor made an excellent selection in asking you to be a part of this authority. Tell us a little bit about your experience with Coro, how long you've been there, and then how has that experience influenced or will influence, you think, on the service you'll be providing on this authority?
I'm a Coro alumna. I previously served on the board of directors and have been in the executive director role for almost 3 years. So have in some way or another been involved with the organization for well over a decade. The immediate sort of transferable skill that comes to mind is that at Coro we train and encourage civic leaders to think and lead beyond traditional boundaries, and that's ideological and that's ethnic and racial, and to really listen and not just to hear what we want to hear. And I think that will be at the forefront of sort of the openness that I'll come to the commission with, and look forward to learning from the other commissioners and providing value where I can.
Thank you. And thank you so very much. We look forward to your service, and thank you. Congratulations again.
Thank you all very much.
But I do have someone who signed up for... Oh, you could go, yeah. I do have someone who signed up for public comment. Terry Tornek. Is Terry here? Terry? So I guess there's no person by Terry. Okay. Thank you for that. So with no objection, we'll move that forward to council. Thank you, colleagues. I'm going to move... just for efficiency's sake, we're going to go out of order, and we're going to take item number 5 first. Mr. CLA, if you could read that into the record.
Motion, Wesson, Krikorian, relative to the coordination, planning, and implementation of infrastructure projects in the public right-of-way in support of the Los Angeles film industry.
Thank you. And I believe there's some people in the overflow room, and we're going to take public comment first. If I could have Arlene Valdivia, Ed Duffy, David Gonzalez, as well as, I'll take all 4. Leanne Mordain Chickhaven.
Oh, Kitchaven.
Chickhaven, sorry. Yes, Ed Duffy. Any one of you guys. Arlene, Ed, David, and Elaine. Come on up. If you could state your name.
Okay, hi. Ed Duffy, Teamsters Local 399. I'm a business agent, vice president, and we represent drivers, location managers, casting directors, animal trainers, others in the industry. The reason why I'm just speaking on this quickly is we appreciate this motion that was made. The issues that we have concern an ongoing problem that we've had with DOT in terms of communication and in terms of getting ahead of things. A lot of times we find out about something after the fact or when it's very close to being implemented, and it would be much better on our part to actually be involved somewhat in the planning of it because, for instance, we had an issue with a blue car issue where they installed a blue car station right in front of a particular location that is filmed all the time. And it was hard for Blue Car to deal with it and hard for us to deal with it, and it cost $100,000 to install, so it couldn't be moved. So now those cars are moved on a regular basis, and that's...
Thank you. Thank you, Ed.
Sure.
Go ahead, state your name.
My name is Arlen Valdivia, and I'm here on behalf of the Motion Picture Association to support this motion. The film community, as a major economic contributor to the city, should be considered an important stakeholder, and we hope to have a more collaborative relationship with the Department of Transportation. We would appreciate the opportunity to be involved through the phases of design, planning, and implementation of these various projects. We support and understand the need for these projects that enhance the mobility, safety, and livability of the city's streets and public spaces. Our hope is that this motion increases communication so that the film industry can be a partner in finding solutions. We urge your support of this motion and look forward to working with DOT and other relevant departments on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, David.
I'm David Gonzalez with the Association of Independent Commercial Producers, representing over 400 companies that specialize in filming television commercials. Our members film about 85% of all the nationally aired commercials on all media platforms. About half of our commercials are filmed here in Southern California, and last year in LA we had about over 6,000 shoot days. We, of course, understand the need to improve the infrastructure and safety for cyclists, pedestrians, motorists on our sidewalks and roadways. These improvements, however, can have unintended consequences for film productions of all types, but especially commercials, 70% of which are filmed on location. These unintended consequences are frequently exacerbated by a lack of clear communication and coordination from city departments. We greatly appreciate and support this motion to promote clear, consistent, and timely coordination between city departments and film industry stakeholders to help mitigate, as much as possible, any potential adverse impacts to the continued growth of this important economic sector in the city of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. Eliane Morden Kitchaven representing SAG-AFTRA. I want to echo I don't want to be repetitive, but so just pretend I said everything that my colleagues said. We have made great efforts and I believe that the DOT has also made efforts to outreach to the industry. However, there does seem to be a disconnect with regard to moving forward. It seems to be very inconsistent, and it doesn't seem to be as well thought out as one would hope. So actually, I'm going to ask the council, this committee, to consider actually strengthening the motion and not have will communicate, but actually I would ask respectfully that it would be shall or must communicate, because I feel sometimes we're not regarded as an important partnership. I feel that sometimes they don't recognize the value that we bring to the city and to the jobs that are in the city. So that would be my request. But I think I don't want to echo everyone. So thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you for that. Well noted. Okay, great. Could I have, that satisfied public comment? Can the Department of Transportation and Public Works please come to the table, please? And as you guys are coming up, I just want to first thank the council president for his willingness to take another stab at this issue. This is one of those issues that for every step that we go forward, and whether it's the color of bike lanes, the notification of utility work, or construction in the public right-of-way, or communications in general, it feels like we're always taking two steps back. So the film industry, as we all know, is a significant economic driver in our city, and we owe it to them and to ourselves to work with these folks, not as obstacles, but as partners. I want to make it clear, as stated by SAG-AFTRA, I am more than willing to make that amendment, but more importantly, this is just the beginning of what we hope will be a larger, more collaborative conversation. As I've already met with the MPAA Association, and I want to make that a regular meeting, personally with myself as the chair of entertainment, as well as with all the labor unions that are involved with entertainment. So we want to make this a starting point, and we want to do more to work collaboratively with you. But to kick it off with some discussion on what's currently in place, I have a couple of questions, and I'll turn it over to my colleagues as well. Department of Transportation or Public Works can answer this as well. I understand there are already ongoing meetings with representatives from the film industry and the Department of Transportation. How often do you guys meet, and what do those meetings consist of?
Sure. Dan Mitchell, Assistant General Manager for the Department of Transportation. We've been meeting with the film industry on and off over several years, mainly focused on specific issues, green paint, street configurations, our bike share stations, and Blue LA. That it hasn't had a set schedule. It mainly has been issue-oriented, but then there have been quarterly meetings that we attend. We attend the film industry quarterly meetings generally, and even have made presentations about new projects we have. While we have, we are committed to working closely with the film industry, we recognize that there have been some missteps, and we can always improve. And in fact, next month, we have a new Assistant General Manager in the Department of Transportation, Assistant General Manager for External Affairs, who, and this is going to be part of her scope, to be working alongside the film industry to ensure that we understand the concerns and that we have the lines of communication open and that we are proactive in how we consider the concerns of the film industry and planning the organization of our streets.
Yeah, and if I can add to that, Fernando Campos, Executive Officer with the Board of Public Works. I appreciate the motion that's before you today, and I also concur with Tony's recommendation. There are some things that we can do a little bit better. In terms of the Board of Public Works, we actually house the television and film czar in our Board of Public Works, Miss Eva Vitar, who does a wonderful job not only coordinating with Film LA, but also works with the film industry quite closely. In addition to that, we do have quarterly meetings with a series of departments, not only with the Department of Transportation, General Services Department, but we also have big players in terms of our bureaus within the Department of Public Works. So we have the Bureau of Engineering, we have the Bureau of Street Services, Bureau of Street Lighting, Contract Administration, along with the Board of Public Works. And then in addition to that, the City Administrative Officer's Office participates in these quarterly meetings. These meetings are really revolved around transportation projects, complete streets, Vision Zero types of projects. So we are meeting on a quarterly basis. I think this motion actually highlights an opportunity for us to invite Film LA to these discussions and bring them to the table. In addition to that, bringing our film and television manager to those discussions as well, just to make sure that the film industry is being kept apprised of what's going on with these projects. SB 1, which is the State Bill 1, which is a big gas tax revenue source for complete streets and Vision Zero, brings in about $60 to $70 million per year. So these are monies that are going back into public infrastructure projects. So we would welcome coordinating, we would welcome the participation, we welcome the comments and the feedback from the film industry, and then bringing on board the film and television manager to participate in these meetings so that it's not just operational or getting the projects moving forward, but making sure that we're coordinating and providing the information to the film industry when they need it.
Great. So just so we're clear and we have a baseline, how are the current departments currently notifying representatives of the film industry or Film LA on when something like future construction or installation of bike lanes, hardscaping, or shared mobility infrastructure, metro bike stations, or blue car facilities, when something like that happens in the city of LA, how are we notifying the various folks in the entertainment industry?
Yeah, for LADOT, we work through Film LA. And we have a list of high-priority filming streets that we developed previously in coordination with the film industry. And so if we have any major projects on there, then we use that as our guide for reaching out specifically around green paint, since that's been a very large concern, so that we're coordinating any installations and there's an opportunity for discussion. That said, we want to have a more comprehensive, proactive strategy with the film industry, and that's something that, as I mentioned, our new Assistant General Manager will launch in the coming months.
And to note, I have heard about the Assistant General Manager, and I know her well, and I'm very excited. And you're going to have a very welcome new addition who really strengthened the department, especially in the community outreach part. But how does that Public Works?
For the Board of Public Works, the same thing. We do meet with Film LA quite extensively on a daily basis, and we also meet with the film industry on a quarterly basis. So we do provide as much information to them quarterly, but if we need to do it daily, we can do it daily. So I believe that we're in sync with what Tony has said as well.
Yeah, I'm hearing, especially DOT, it's an on and off meeting. Maybe we should institutionalize that as well. But and it seems like Public Works is very much in favor of enhancing the communication. But when a city department, contractor, or developer releases a notice of upcoming work in a public right-of-way, So are these notices currently being all sent to Film LA?
For DOT, we don't generally have notices that go out for construction. That may be more on the public works side. We do have notices that go out maybe about community outreach around a particular project. And that's not something that I think currently we are targeting to Film LA, but we can certainly look at doing that. It's a very reasonable request.
On the Board of Public Works side, there is definitely something we can do better, and that is to onboard the Film LA corporation as a whole into our early notification system. So as the Board of Public Works takes any actions, or as the board considers any actions that may have an impact to the film industry, that early notification system will automatically be sent out to Film LA. And anybody that's in the film industry that wants to subscribe to our agendas, they can do so by going onto our website. So again, we can work on getting Film LA onto that early notification system so that they are informed of all actions. The Board of Public Works takes approximately 1,200 actions per year. I would say about good 60 to 80% of those are related to construction projects. So it would be a good avenue and a good outlet, information outlet for Film LA to be part of that.
Yeah, and and just to put a plug, I think this is relevant where I've been trying to push forward Office of Construction Coordination, which is basically what it sounds. And actually, this is an idea from DOT, and that's been a budget request every year. And I think it's more and more, it's not just for filming, but it's for everything else, just so we could know what the right hand is doing, what the left hand is doing. I'm really going to advocate for that again this budget cycle. But more importantly, I have a couple of thoughts. But before I do, I want to hand it over to my colleagues. Do you have any questions?
Sure, yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Did we settle the green color for bike lanes? Because I thought we settled it 2 years ago, but we haven't. I thought it was done, but it's not?
So this is Dan Mitchell with LADOT. Yes, we arrived at a color, that specific Pantone color, I believe, or within some certain coordinates that we use. Although there are different products and sometimes it comes out a little bit differently, there's a color that was assigned. I know that there was a recent test.
But they're kind of shaking their heads like, not really, not exactly. So I don't mean to interrupt you, Mr. Mitchell.
We can circle back and make sure that when we re-engage the film industry under the new assistant general manager, we'll make that agenda item number one, finalizing or communicating what at least our records show as the color that we've finalized.
Okay, and how about the sign shop? Bureau Street Services are the ones that post the parking restriction signs, correct?
LADOT.
LED, okay, so you do. So I chaired this committee. We worked on so many of these issues. So I have growing frustration on why they're still chronic when the industry employs 500,000 professionals in the county of LA, either directly or indirectly. It's our signature industry, and I would think that the city would prioritize a coordination and a collaboration with our signature industry as we evolve into these improvements. They're safety improvements, it's the Safe Streets movement, et cetera. But the fact that we still haven't landed on the right color that are good for everyone, bike safety and for filming on locations, which we're known for, frustrates me incredibly. Now, as far as the signs, we were limited with literally machinery that just simply didn't print the signs at a more accurate time. So signs were posted that would close a street all day for like a 1 hour or 2 hour film shoot. I had it on good authority a couple of years ago that we had the machinery to post more tailored signs for half a day of filming or for 4 hours because that burdens the neighborhoods, of course. So do we have that capability now to at least post signs that more accurately reflect the need for the production company?
Yes, my understanding is that we purchased equipment a couple of years ago, and that since then we've been providing more tailored signs. I know that we post tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of signs all over the city each year, and my understanding is that they are tailored to the times that are requested in our system.
Okay, that would be a very good improvement and really low-tech improvement, so that's a good thing. So let me ask you this. There's communication clearly between DOT and the city and the entertainment industry and their representatives, et cetera. However, have you landed on a set of literal categories that would trigger hey, wait a second, before we do this new hardscape improvement that might involve moving a median or installing bike rentals, like what happened on Broadway, which caused some problems. Do you have a category of DOT improvements that the film industry should know about so that it's not a parking lot of everything that DOT does that they need to know about? I think it's the big ones. It's the important ones. I think it'd be less time consuming that way, along with the notices of, hey, there's going to be street work for the next 2 months, so you may not want to film there. But in terms of these infrastructure improvements, especially at these sites that are sensitive in relation to frequency of filming or historic sites, when, as we evolve into the future, and our streets are going to look very, very different, and they already are, and that's a good thing because it makes it safer for pedestrians and everyone else. But it seems to me that if you had a specific list of categories and you worked with these folks on what that list is, that would trigger a conference and a conversation before you move forward. For example, if you get a notice that you're going to do bike lanes and bike share and on a street that is known for filming, that's never had it before, I would think that would trigger a consultation with the industry. Because they might say, you know what, that will really harm our ability for these production companies that hire locally and, like I said, provide these jobs. Perhaps you should look at an arterial street for those improvements instead. So I don't know if those kinds of conversations are happening, and I feel very strongly that they should, because that's where we get into trouble, where we have the $100,000 blue car installation, et cetera, et cetera. So I would ask for a formalization of a relationship with DOT, with all of our big goals and our safe streets and all that, to develop a list of categories with the industry that effectuates a consultation before something gets along too far. Because I think that could prevent a lot of the headaches that we face in all this. And I hope that 2 years from now we have a color for bike lanes that works for everyone. I'm baffled as to why we don't yet still, quite frankly, and I'm very frustrated about that. But I know everyone's working hard, but we just need to make a decision. It shouldn't wait for the new general manager to come in either, or the new deputy assistant general manager. It should have happened. So I appreciate that.
And Councilman, if I can just
Yes.
add, I love that idea. That's a great idea, not only for DOT, but I think also for the Department of Public Works. I think that if we have a laundry list of the types of projects that could impact the film industry, and if those projects do get before the Board of Public Works for a formal decision, then the consultation would be triggered before we get there. So we can have staff include a statement that we've reached out to the Film LA or the film industry to indicate what their position is on that project.
Right.
The other great thing that the Board of Public Works does is that we have our president of the Board of Public Works, who is also chair for the film, so Mr. Kevin James. So he is constantly advocating for the film industry, constantly reminding staff of the requirements, the conditions, making sure that the paint is the right color scheme, making sure that we're addressing the Film LA concerns, making sure that the film industry is kept in mind. So he will constantly amend reports to make sure that the film industry is taken into consideration. But going back to your suggestion of having that list of categories, I think it also helps the Department of Public Works to have that same list, just like DOT would be beneficial to have that list as well. So at that point, we're both looking at it at the same time. And if we're synchronizing our efforts, then they should get 2 notifications for that same project. Or possibly only one, but ideally if they can get communication
after it's already
from
been
both
agreed upon that it's not going to cause terrible disruption for the industry. So that way you collaborate instead.
And at minimum, the industry, if they are enrolled into our early notification system, they know when the item is going before the Board of Public Works. And if there's anything that they want to comment directly and provide any oral testimony, they can come to the Board of Public Works. We welcome public comments. We welcome collaboration. We want to partner with the industry. So there's many opportunities that we can get this right.
I think you need to have a category of projects that represent a significant change in the public infrastructure that would impact the industry. And that might be a fairly long list, but a fairly simple list, and that way you would have something to talk about constructively in advance of a change. Thank you.
Okay, Councilman, we do have a list that we've been using now, which involve plazas and parklets that the film industry has requested to know about, the shared mobility infrastructure, the bike stations, and Blue LA.
As long as
any
they're still in the
installation-
proposal stage and not the it's going to happen stage.
Right. Yes. So that's our goal, to reach out with plenty of notice. The green paint is another one, and we do have, of course, we've had our missteps. We do have some success stories too, that we've worked closely with the film industry. Spring Street is a great example here south of City Hall, where we knew we heard from the industry that was a very high priority filming location. We actually removed the green, and we worked with the film industry on the reorganization of that street and coordinated on the installation of bollards and so forth. And I think that's an example that we can hold up as something good. So we certainly have the capacity to do that, and we'll keep working toward an improved relationship.
Thank you.
Thank you. And this is very frustrating. I mean, the fact that even an agreement on color post fact is still not done. But if this system was in place and it was everything that we talked about and Councilman O'Farrell brought up, if it was in place, we wouldn't even have to agree on color. We would have had that issue resolved before it even got put down in the first place. So this is what I'm going to do. What I want to do, colleagues, and if it's okay with you, Councilman O'Farrell, I want to just move this motion along as is. I want to move it forward to council because I've made it clear, and I've spoken with the film industry as well as the departments. I would love more of a formalization and reorganization of everything that we're doing. You guys don't need a motion. We're already working with your office, and I'm already working with the film industry because right now when things do work well, it's based on relationships, not necessarily based on protocol or procedure. So we really need to put all of these procedures and protocols in place. I personally, as the chair, don't mind attending these meetings, whether we do quarterly or monthly or whatever we do. So I would love to work, because I don't want to start identifying all the things we want to do now. We want to kind of leave it open-ended, and if we need a motion later, we could do that. But if we'll work with you, the two departments, as well as the film czar and everybody else, and the film industry, to make sure we have actual set protocols and procedures in place, so we could try to avoid things like this in the future. So if that's okay, I'm going to move this along.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Mr. Chair, because time is of the essence, and we know the direction we want to head in.
Right.
But I'm going to impose requirements, the ones that I described in this conversation on the council floor then.
Great.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Moving along, item number, and so moved, so item number 6. If we could read that in, Mr. CLA.
Item number 6, City Administrative Officer and Chief Legislative Analyst to report relative to the independent economic analysis on a potential paid parental leave program, scheduled pursuant to council action of April 2nd, 2019.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. I have one public comment card. You guys could you can still be there. Diane Yedowan? I never realized your last name.
Yedoyan.
Yedoyan. Diane?
Close. At least you attempted.
Yeah.
Good morning, council members, or good afternoon, council members. Diana Yedoyan with the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce. Just here to say thank you to Councilmember Rue and Councilwoman Martinez for including the chamber and the business community early on in this process and meeting with us and giving us an opportunity to just get our voices heard. And a lot of our businesses already have best practices, and working with you guys to tell you what those are. In terms of the item today, we just want to make sure that in the economic impact study that's done is just taking into account all the administrative costs that a lot of our businesses have to go through when you have different policies in different cities, because a lot of our companies are multi-city and cross city lines, and how that would kind of affect how they calculate the time for each business, each employee that's here for however amount of time in the city of Los Angeles. So thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Very much appreciated. This is a very exciting issue that I'm moving forward, and I really thank not just the LA Chamber, but also BizFed, Central Cities Association, and many of the business groups who opened up their doors to meet with myself and Councilmember Nuri Martinez on this very important, no-brainer issue that should have happened decades ago, where the only nation in the world, only developed countries in the world that does not have a paid parental leave policy. And that is a travesty, and we are rectifying that situation as we speak. And I just want to thank everybody in this room for their tremendous work in getting us to this point so quickly. and we are very excited to get the study underway, independent study for the paid parental leave policy that will take into effect in the city of LA. And we're very happy to be working with the Los Angeles Economic Development Corporation. And at this point, I want to turn it over to Clay and Aura to kick us off.
Great. Good afternoon, Council Members. Clay McCarter with the CLA's office. I'm joined by Aurora Abracia with the CAO. The joint CLA-CO report before you is in response to Council's instruction to have our offices report with recommendations to procure an independent economic analysis of the proposed parental leave program. Our offices explored a variety of options using the CAO's list of on-call economic advisors or releasing a standalone RFP. Staff also spoke to academic and nonprofit organizations to determine if such an economic analysis could be accomplished on a pro bono basis. And resulting from this analysis, we recommend that the CLA be authorized to negotiate and execute a professional services agreement with the Los Angeles County Economic Development Corporation, LAEDC, who will undertake this study with no cost to the city. This procurement will be accomplished through a professional services agreement that will include the project scope, timeline, and deliverables. LAEDC has a demonstrated experience in economic analysis and is best suited to provide the city with this independent review. And with that,
Now, if you have any additional questions for our office, we're available.
Yeah. Yes. Clay, if you could walking us through the scope of work.
Certainly, yes. So the scope of work as it stands is, I'll go through each point. There will be an evaluation of existing public sector paid parental leave programs offered by jurisdictions in California and internationally, with particular emphasis placed on programmatic experience, direct or indirect costs incurred by employers in those jurisdictions, focusing more specifically on the city and county of San Francisco, whose program has been in place for about a year. The evaluation will also look at existing private and public sector paid parental leave programs offered by employers located in the city of Los Angeles and or with a significant number of employees located within city limits, including industries with collective bargaining agreements. It will also look at citywide and industry-specific analysis on the number of employees that would be eligible for a potential paid parental leave program, an estimation of potential direct and indirect citywide industry-specific costs, an evaluation of impacts, risks, and costs to large, mid-size, and small businesses, including independent contractors and their employees, options to mitigate the potential risks and costs, including but not limited to exemptions for small businesses and nonprofits, businesses with collective bargaining agreements, modifications to the city's business tax, an expansion of short-term disability insurance coverage, and the development of an opt-in program. The final two are the pros and cons of what the program would have on the city's economy, and an evaluation of the health outcomes of domestic and international paid parental leave programs.
Thank you. And we're also joined by Somjita from LAEDC. If I could ask you quickly, has the LAEDC conducted economic analysis of this type and this breadth before?
Yes, a few years ago, we were contracted to do the $15 minimum wage for the county of Los Angeles' unincorporated areas, as well as for the city of Long Beach. So we have some experience doing reports of this type of depth and breadth.
Great. One last question to the CLA and the CAO. What is the proposed timeline for completion of this study?
We've heard the study will take about 6 months to complete.
6 months from after we pass it out at City Council?
Correct.
Okay. Somjita, does that sound right? Yes. 6 months? Yes. Great. Colleagues, you have any questions?
Well, just that this is an exciting development. We know that the leave is a policy that everyone should be entitled to, and we certainly want to make sure that as a progressive city, we are making these programs available. I think it's significant that we're going to be surveying the scene, seeing what's out there at the local level, at the state level, and coming up with the best. So I'm excited to get the results. We have a lot of confidence in LAEDC. You are a known quantity, and I think that your insight and your ability to pool together all the information was going to be make for a very good report. So we look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Farrell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I echo Mr. Price's sentiments, and I thank you, Mr. Chair, and Ms. Martinez for your leadership on this. I agree. Paid parental leave should be a right. We need to support young parents, or not so young parents, any parents, to spend time and bond with their young child, whether biological or adopted. And it doesn't matter the gender, by the way. So and I look forward to the analysis. I think it's going to be terrific. And I look forward to hearing the unvarnished facts of the matter. Who it might impact the most, who it will impact least, and those are the decisions that we will weigh. I ask one thing in your analysis. There is a group that met with me about a month ago, and it was about 25 business owners, every last one of them minority-owned, and for the most part, English was not the first language. And they brought up this and had questions about it. I said, get involved. Start getting involved about this with this conversation. In your analysis, would you mind meeting with them or the representatives of this group? Would that be something that you could do?
Thank you, Councilmember. I think that's a great idea. I think it would be helpful to get input from businesses that may be affected. It might be helpful to get some insight. We were also talking with USC. They've done some health analysis on family leave and on the health on the mom and the child and long-term implications of that. So I do welcome any and all voices to be part of this study.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
We'll put you in. We'll
Yes.
connect you. And it's a nascent informal group at this point, but they have selected people to speak on their behalf, et cetera. It was a great meeting, and so I think this is sort of part of. It's not an underground economy, but part of an economy that we don't always hear from. And so they don't belong to a chamber, et cetera. So I think this could be a good insight into what are these small businesses that have a very tiny profit margin, have input from them in crafting the report.
Absolutely. I think that's great.
Thank you so much. That's terrific. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman O'Farrell. And I think in the scope of work, it has talked about possible small business exemption and all of that scope. And I just want to make it clear that this is a economic analysis. But myself and Councilwoman Martinez, who is the co-author of this motion, we have been going on a listening tour. And we will be. This isn't the only study. We will be definitely asking the CAO and the CLA for additional studies and additional report backs, as well as helping compile a lot of studies that are already in existence, even locally by UCLA and USC. So, but I want to make it clear that this LAEDC independent analysis is purely on economics, and I'm very excited about this. And I really want to thank LAEDC for taking on this project pro bono, by the way. And we have been on the forefront of a number of progressive initiatives, as Councilman Price has stated, and we tend to move our economy firmly into the 21st century. And if the United States doesn't want to join every single other developed, industrialized nations in the world that has a paid parental leave policy, then California and Los Angeles will lead that way. So we're very excited about this, and thank you to everyone in LAEDC for standing with us. Yeah, okay, great. Thank you. And with that said, so moved, I will move this along and approve the CLA and CAO's report. Thank you, colleagues. And our last item, we'll be moving along, and Councilman O'Farrell has to leave because he needs to be at another committee because we pushed everything back, Public Safety Committee, and they need him for quorum because I'm also on that committee and I can't be there. So moving along to item number 2, our last item of the agenda.
Board of Recreation and Parks report, an appeal filed by Douglas Carstens on behalf of the Committee of Save the Hollywood Land Specific Plan relative to the California Environmental Quality Act determination for the Lake Hollywood and Upper Vista outdoor improvements, project PRJ 21233, and board report.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. Before we have the departments come up, we have 35 people who signed up. We'll give you a minute each. Very much appreciate you guys being here. I'll call you 3 at a time, and please come on up. Sheila Irani, Christina O'Neill, and Joyce Lapinski. Any one of you guys could start. Just state your name.
Good afternoon, Council. This is Sheila Irani. I'm a former president of Lake Hollywood Homeowners Association for 9 terms. I'm also serving on Hollywood United Neighborhood Council as well as the Griffith Park Advisory Board. Both of those organizations are in support of the tree planting on Mulholland Highway because of the safety concerns that we are experiencing in that area, mainly because it is a red zone with a tow-away, no parking, and we have a number of cars stopping constantly on that highway as the tourists mainly come to photograph the sign. So once they turn the corner, they see the sign, not realizing that there's more parking to be found below, they stop there and cause chaos and congestion, and there have been collisions, and the pedestrians are at risk as well. So we have been in my term as LHHA president, I started working about 4.5 years ago on trying to find some type of barrier that would work on Mulholland Highway, be it bollards or K-rails, guardrails. We looked at fencing, and the conclusion was the tree would be the best object to select.
Thank you. Thank you, Sheila.
Hi, my name is Joyce Lipinski. I live in Lake Hollywood, and I've actually just been a resident there for 3 years, and within the 3 years, it's changed and grown exponentially as far as traffic, and especially, well, on my street, but also obviously Mulholland Highway. And every week it seems to increase, and it's very, very frightening. I know how to drive and what to expect and what to anticipate in that neighborhood and up on Mulholland. Most people there are tourists. They don't know what to expect and anticipate. It's really, really scary, and so I'm for the tree planting and anything that would lessen the risk and raise the safety for everybody, because there are drivers, hikers, bikers, and you name it on the little road that you all are aware of. And I'm for that as soon as possible. I had a near hit, like bowling pins, of about a dozen people who were sitting on Mulholland, and I almost hit them all with my car.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Christine O'Neill. I'm the Vice President of Lake Hollywood Homeowners Association. This can be summed up really quickly. We definitely need the trees. They need to be planted on the Mulholland area where the pedestrians are walking. Cars are hopping the curbs. You've got the pictures in front of you, and they're clearly right here. Basically, the drivers see the Hollywood sign and they stop. That's it. They think that's their last chance to get a picture, their first and only and last chance. So they stop and encourage us to go around them. And if you can see in this picture, there's literally these cars are headed for a head-on collision. So adding to the problem, we have pedestrians walking in the street with their toddlers, so which is absolutely ridiculous. Also, cars are jumping the curb and just hanging out on what we're referring to as the sub-vistas, which are the other dirt areas that have been walked on. The plan as we see it is to place some sort of a guardrail or fence or something along the edge of the sidewalk, leaving room for a path, and then on the other side, the trees, so that they can be safe walking and out of our street.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Susan Lawson, David Benz, Andy Corrigan. Go ahead, anyone can start. Go ahead. Sure, David.
Okay, I've got a few things for you.
Yeah. Give it to the clerk.
Hi, I'm David Benz, president of Lake Hollywood Homeowners Association, 20-year resident of this neighborhood. Our community has 147 homes. There's unanimous support among the residents of Lake Hollywood Estates for planting trees on Mulholland Highway. There's a huge safety problem. When a car illegally stops in the red zone, often frustrated motorists drive around the illegally stopped vehicle. A fatal accident is waiting to happen. Trees will make it impossible for motorists to jump the curb, and when the trees fill in, there will no longer be a view of the Hollywood sign, so this is an environmentally friendly and aesthetically pleasing solution. We face gridlock nearly every day when driving on this road. We only have 2 points of ingress and egress into our neighborhood. The alternate route via Cahuenga Boulevard takes 30% longer if traffic on Mulholland Highway is not backed up. I sincerely wish our neighborhoods in Hollywoodland all the best, but there are only 5 homes in Hollywoodland that are directly impacted by the problem, the way all the residents of Lake Hollywood Estates are.
We get up.
According to a 2016 USC study, the number of trees in Los Angeles declined by 30% between 2000 and 2009. Please overturn the appeal and allow the tree planting to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And if I could ask the audience to be respectful of all speakers, so they could be respectful when you speak as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, I'm Susan Lawson. I'm a resident of Hollywood Lake Estates. And for what you've already heard from the other speakers, you understand it is incredibly dangerous. And for everyone here who's both for and against the trees, I think everyone is in agreement that we are overrun with tourists who are preoccupied with the sign. And it's a very, very dangerous situation. I think some people want even more done. I think we all would like even more things need to be done. This is a very great step to address a very specific issue in this area, and we can build upon it. To wait, I think this has already taken 3 years to come to fruition. To wait for something bigger, better, talking 5, 10, 15 years, people don't even know what it is yet. And honestly, who's against trees, really? We need all the trees we can get. So I think this would help this specific issue and be positive for the area in the long term. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Andy Corrigan, and I've been a resident of Lake Hollywood Estates since 1992. And like many long-term residents and short-term residents there, we've all mourned the loss of our little neighborhood. And no one's even disputing that the tourists are going to go away. They're here to stay. But what we care about is safety, and that strip on Mulholland is really a problem, as everybody keeps saying. And, until you've endured selfie madness, which we do every day, I mean, it's what Susan said. People just stop, they're enamored, take that photo, jump back in their car, or worse yet, leave their car stuck in the middle of the road. We walk the neighborhood, Lake Hollywood Estates. We have signatures of all residents, all households in our neighborhood of 124 homes support the trees. And I'd
Thank
like
you.
to hand this over.
Thank you. Could I get Jean Clyde Mason, Christine O'Brien, Sarah Jane Schwartz?
I waived my time since our time individually has been cut in half by you.
I'm sorry?
Do you want me to begin?
Go ahead.
Okay.
If you can state your name.
Christine O'Brien, Hollywoodland. No piecemeal projects. A full EIR is mandatory. In 2001, the city began circumventing process, avoiding environmental safety and charter rules. Departments and councilmen bootlegged 2 illegal vistas, a 22-space parking lot, an illegal switchback, and undocumented openings from Hollywoodland Residential into the 444-acre open space donated to the city by our developer. Today, you have an opportunity to correct these deceptive actions. Mission statements, values among departments administering these actions show nothing about safety or environmental issues affecting the property owners, the citizens, or visitors for that matter. It is not about us. It is about your tourism. It is about your promotion, not about our protection. Take this opportunity to do the right thing. Support a full EIR. Thank you.
Sarah Jane Schwartz. Give us one EIR over all of Hollywoodland. Reading the accounts of the fire in Paradise, one is struck by the enormous similarities with Hollywoodland. Residents and fire officials knew beforehand how dangerous it was. Extremely limited infrastructure and substandard narrow streets. Inappropriate development for such limited and aged infrastructure. Limited evacuation routes, which were easily gridlocked. People died in their cars trying to escape. You can't bring back Paradise, but you can prevent the next one. Conditions in Hollywoodland are even worse, as our infrastructure is more limited, and it is the city and Councilman Rue who are charged with protecting public safety, who are the ones promoting this very dangerous, bootlegged, piecemealed-in tourist attraction. We are a bottleneck, 80% surrounded by dry brush. Evacuation to the south is cut off by the Hollywood Freeway. Tourism brings in thousands of smokers to this very high fire hazard zone. Years before the tourist congestion, a resident died in his home because LAFD could not navigate our tourist-free, narrow streets.
Thank you,
Give
Sarah
us
Jane.
one EIR.
Thank you. Earlier, I called Jean Clyde Mason. I believe you ceded your time. Do you want to come and speak for a minute?
I cede my time to.
Unfortunately, you can't cede your time. Unfortunately, you can't cede your time. You could come on up and say what you want to say.
I'll say what I want to say from my heart.
Can you come on up and speak at the microphone? Can you can you come on up to the microphone?
No.
Okay, then. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Then we'll call George Abbott I think he put it in twice, Claire and Clark. I think it's one person. George Abbott Clark, James Schneider, Nancy Moreno. You state your name. Any of you can start first.
Hi, my name is James Schneider. Mulholland Highway is a tragedy in motion. I often witness 4 to 8 cars left unattended, abandoned, as drivers run in a panic to get that photo of the sign. It creates a nightmare. You should see... Is this on?
Yeah, it's on.
Sorry, can I start over?
Go ahead. Let's restart this time. Restart this time. Okay, go ahead.
Mulholland Highway is a tragedy in motion. I often witness 4 to 8 cars left unattended, abandoned as drivers and passengers run in a panic to get that perfect video or image that they can get immediately. It's creating a nightmare for cars trying to get around them on the blind, narrow curves, desperate to pass these vehicles and trying not to hit pedestrians. Many drivers go up on the curb. If you watch yourself, you'll see them jump up on the curb, park their car, and take photos on top of their car. It's insane, the behavior that we witness. It's not if, it's just when there's going to be a tragedy. And when it hits national news, what are you going to do then? How are you going to correct that? How are you going to spin that? It's going to hit national news at one point, and it's going to devastate the revenue of this city. Let's work together to create a safe environment that the visitors are happy, we're happy, the neighborhood is happy, and the city is feeling confident that they have a nice environment for visitors to come and see the sign. Councilman, I hope you come and see the chaos for yourself. Surprise us, show up. Sadly, I don't think you have the cojones to do so.
Please.
Okay, my name is Dr. George Abbott Clark. I'm a homeowner in the Hollywood land under the Hollywood sign. I'm requesting that the city prepare an environmental impact report that addresses all the projects and actions being taken as part of the Dixon study and related council file number 180057. I support safe access to the Hollywood sign. We must work together to address the public nuisance in our neighborhoods and mitigate legal liabilities of increasing traffic and tourists. I do not support piecemeal project development of an international tourist destination in an R1 residential neighborhood with substandard narrow streets. This wantonly endangers public safety, creates uncontrolled traffic congestion, and inhibits emergency vehicle access in an LAPD identified high fire hazard area. Nearly every weekend and holiday, total gridlock occurs on such streets as Ledgewood and adjacent streets. I run these hills daily on weekends and holidays. I routinely stop smokers who often refuse to stop smoking and count many illegally parked cars and tourist vans.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nancy Moreno. I'm a resident on Belden Drive. My house straddles Ledgewood. We support safe access to the Hollywood sign. We want to work with the city and our fellow neighbors to address the public nuisance in our neighborhoods and mitigate legal liabilities of increasing traffic and tourists. Our entire neighborhood is impacted. We do not support piecemeal project development of an international tourist destination in our neighborhood, as they endanger public safety, they create uncontrolled traffic congestion, and inhibit emergency vehicle access in our LAPD identified high fire hazard area. In April 2016, my husband's bicycle was stolen from my garage. Someone sat in my car smoking. I don't feel safe anymore. We request that the city immediately prepare an environmental impact report before it takes any immediate next steps. We ask that it invest in resources to control traffic and parking until the EIR is completed. Thank you.
Could I get Diane Noel, Richard Zinar, and Robert Andrus?
Yeah, my name is Diana Knoll.
Go ahead.
Long before the city decided to turn a residential neighborhood, Hollywoodland, into an international tourist destination, an environmental impact report should have been ordered. This should have been the first order of business. So before you continue on with the piecemeal approach, trying to get by using the Band-Aid approach, a little here, a little there, an EIR report is mandatory. Our Hollywoodland is a delicate balance of nature, wildlife, and infrastructure, and needs to be protected, not exploited for commercial gains. The ridiculousness of paid tourist vans and people walking down the middle of the street, especially on Ledgewood, is very dangerous. I am also myself very amazed with all the smoking that goes on up there that there hasn't been a fire. It's only a matter of time. The odds are against us. And to add to the problem, some of these tourists are not respectful. They misbehave, yell, smoke, and leave trash behind. In addition, my corner, Ledgewood and Mulholland, has turned into a drop-off for Uber, Lyft, and taxis, creating congestions which
Thank you.
backs up down Ledgewood, which
Thank you.
creates chaos. With
Thank you.
500 people a day walking past my house.
Thank you. Please.
Yeah, hi, Robert Andrus. It just seems to me that what's going on here is really clear, and it's a case of tourists and too much tourism, and the neighborhood that can't handle it. So it's the city has to decide whether their priority is the tourists or the neighborhood, the people who live there, people who vote, the people who pay their taxes, who get up and go to work, who live their lives there. There are too many tourists. It's really clear. I think the city should take steps to discourage the tourist impact and the tourist problem in that area. And if we see that the city makes choices to encourage tourism, then we know what side you guys are on. And it's not our side, and it's not the people who live in the city's side. And you can sacrifice one neighborhood after another to the interests of tourism, and in the end, you have nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. So Richard Zinar, I believe I called him, and we're going to take him off. Jane Goichman, Susan Krantz, and David Livingston. Anyone could start, whoever comes up first. Go ahead. Yeah, do you want to go first? Do you want to?
No, I want to stand here for a second. Mr. Price.
Wait, can you use the microphone? Yeah, for the audience listening in.
I just wanted to point out, I mean, if you don't know this area, David's very well familiar with it. But this is the area we're talking about on Mulholland. You can see what it looks like. And the idea is that the trees would go here. It isn't obvious, but the idea is that the trees would go so that the people who now stop and say, oh, there's the Hollywood sign, they could no longer, or after a short time as these trees grow, they could no longer see the Hollywood sign. So some of this stopping on Mulholland would stop and stop the blockage. To say that this is something to encourage tourism is bizarre. Our neighborhood does not favor tourism. Mr. Rue is well aware of that. What we want is right now to have this step taken, which we've been impatiently waiting for 2.5 years, to mitigate a traffic issue and a major safety issue, both for those of us who live here, for those who come, and in case of emergency, obviously emergency vehicles cannot get through. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm David Livingston. I've lived in Beechwood Canyon for 19 years, and I can testify to the substantial reduction in the quality of life due to the overwhelming amount of tourism. I actually live on Beechwood and continually watch the parade of tourists up and down, and the trash, the cigarette butts, and other stuff that's left behind that I won't mention. I'm in favor of trees, and more trees and fewer tourists. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Krantz, if there's a Susan Krantz, if she's still here. Let's take out David Livingston, he signed up twice. Dorothy Livingston and Michael Morrow. So Dorothy Livingston, Michael Morrow, Susan Krantz, last call. Michael, go ahead.
I would like to ask for more time from two people who are willing to succeed.
I'm sorry, we can't do that.
Can you change the rules?
No, I'm sorry, I can't.
I think you should.
Unfortunately, we all have to follow the same rules, yes.
Okay, I'll start. 2/3 of the committee, I'm Dr. Michael Morrow, and I've been in Hollywoodland since 1946. I'm concerned. It seems like you're making our residential neighborhood into a business. You're allowing Uber and Lyft to transport tourists back and forth. We have setbacks that are supposed to be 5 feet from the street, and yet building and safety, and they don't get enforced. New walls, new fences get built, and nothing is done. And it makes it dangerous, more dangerous for the for the walkers. The vehicular traffic is the worst, but the walkers. Now, there's overhead noise as well. Helicopters, small planes, and not to mention a Hollywood Burbank air traffic pattern that's been established the last couple of years. Do you want to be liable?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm Dorothy Livingston. I'm married to David, who was just up here, and I agree with every single thing he said. And the safety of our neighborhood has reduced since I've lived there, and I've only lived there 8-9 years. And I do not feel as safe as I did when I first moved in, because of all the tourism and because of the traffic pattern that comes up Beechwood. I live on Beechwood. And the people get out of their cars, they run across the street. They don't believe that it's an actual neighborhood where people live and drive. So thank you.
Thank you. If I get Kath Morrow, or it's probably Kathy Morrow, Robert Burris, and Laura Davis.
Good morning or afternoon, council members. Kathy Morrow, Hadley Woodland, and I just am opposed to all the tourism in our neighborhood. Why? Because now there's low flying airplanes besides the high, and also all the helicopters, the tourist helicopters, besides the fire and police, which are necessary. And increase in the road traffic through the Uber, the Lyft, and foot traffic, hiking groups from 5 to 25 coming past our house, sometimes asking for water, sometimes asking to use our bathroom, sometimes going through the bushes. And also, when they hike, they're walking. Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Laura Davis. I'm a 32-year resident of Hollywoodland, and I appreciate your attention, council members and associates. I agree with much of what's been said or will be said today, so I simply want to take my moment to thank the Does, Crosby and Linda Doe, for their tireless work on behalf of all of us in Lake Hollywood and Hollywoodland. They are preservationists, they are environmentalists, and I support the work that they're doing and that their attorney, Mr. Karstens, who I believe is here today, is doing on their behalf. So thank you, and anyone that feels as I do behind me, I hope you'll stand up. Show your support.
Thank you.
Council, good afternoon. My name is Robert Burris. I'm a resident of Lake Hollywood, and not to be redundant, I think the issue is clear. We've got a small neighborhood, and unfortunately the infrastructure just doesn't support the volume of traffic potentially that is coming up there. In short, I support the tree planting project. However, I think it's potentially what needs to be one component of a much larger, more integrated plan and a much more holistic solution. I appreciate the small effort that's being looked at right now for the tree planting, but I think it's exceptionally much larger than this. And again, not to be redundant with everything that's been said, I would maybe encourage the council to come up at 1 p.m. on a Saturday, maybe this holiday weekend, and a picture will be worth 1,000 words. Thank you.
I'll give you all
Thank you. I've been there many a times, especially every single holiday. Hope Anderson, Rose Ware, Linda Doe. Oh, I skipped somebody. Whoops. Yeah. Go ahead. Oh, can you speak in the microphone?
My name is Hope Anderson. I have lived on Beechwood Drive at 2800 since 2005. In that time, my quality of life has diminished to the point where it's a night and day situation. There's no more wildlife. There's no more peace and quiet. Even on Sundays, I notice you're running dash buses up. So there used to be this little tiny window of time on Sundays where I didn't have to be woken up by people screaming outside my house. Groups of 25 or 30 walk by all day long. The parking situation, the permit situation hasn't changed that, and now it's much easier for them to come up because there's dash 7 days a week, which there never was before. The right to quiet enjoyment of our homes as well instituted in our laws, and yet we don't have that in Hollywoodland because the entire neighborhood has been given over to tourism. And I ask you, what is the point? We pay your salaries through our property taxes, but we're not getting anything in return. In recent years, I've had people fornicating outside my house on the public stairs. I mean, is that the kind of thing you really
Thank you.
condone?
If you state your name.
I'm Rose Ware, and I've been a 25-year resident in Beechwood on Mulholland. The city is holding a veritable outdoor festival every day at the sign in our neighborhood, akin to Coachella, only without the bands. By continuing to promote and develop the illegal sign vista in our residential areas, the city is putting not only our communities at risk, but the lives of thousands of tourists and visitors alike. Tourists walk narrow, crumbling dirt paths with steep 50-foot drops to take their photos. Visitors wait for Uber rides on tiny streets with no sidewalks. Traffic is bottlenecked on red, no stopping zones. Tour buses clog the streets, dropping off tourists in no stopping zones, and lost off-trail hikers are retrieved by helicopters or park rangers almost daily. It's nonsense. The city has failed to consider the cumulative and residual effects of this massive daily influx of tourists and visitors on the community surrounding the sign. The potential for disaster is real. Fires have broken out at these vista points, and I urge you to strongly reconsider implementing the Dixon Plan as outlined.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Hi, I want to thank all of you for allowing us the opportunity to talk to you. I think that much has been said. I don't need to browbeat you on it. I think that you know what the deal is. And our council is here, and they will talk a little bit more to all of you with regard to the problems that we have. And I just want to thank you for the opportunity of this hearing. That's all I have to say to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Tara Fong, Nancy Gerton, and Ryan Lapine. Please.
Hi, I'm Tara Stevenson Fong. I was born and raised in Hollywoodland and have resided there. I own 2 homes that abut Mulholland Highway. I've seen a huge change and increase in tourism in the neighborhood. The Dixon study was presented to us as a full report to the neighbors that are affected by tourism and access to Griffith Park. This project at Mulholland is one of the ideas from the Dixon study. The Mulholland project is not a fully composed project. This has been presented to a few of the neighbors of Hollywoodland and Lake Hollywood Estates, but when it came time to vote on this project, only the plants were approved, not the fencing. And that was removed last minute. There's never been a full holistic proposal of how all the Dixon study elements will affect the safety, environment, and neighborhoods involved. Instead, piecemeal projects are being done without EIRs and CEQA. The city needs to be accountable and present a full Dixon study project, including EIR and CEQA, to present the final plan to the neighborhoods and involve.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councilmember Ryu, thank you for entertaining our comments today. My name's Ryan Lapine. I live on Ledgewood, and I live in one of the 3 houses that overlook the gridlock that appears weekly. And I do want to say I invite you up anytime on weekends. There are 3 properties where you can see it, and it's pretty bad. I'm not going to browbeat the point of tourism and how it affects our neighborhood in Lake Hollywood. We're not for or against trees. I want to be very clear on that. But what we do want is an environmental impact report so we can look at the public safety issue that exists due to tourism in our neighborhood. And when you see it on a weekly basis, and you see gridlock, and you see people getting out of their cars and getting into actual fistfights almost every Saturday, when I have to put cigarettes out in the brush on my lawn on a weekly basis, there's a risk of fire, but moreover, there's a risk that the police can't get in to stop these problems because the streets lock up. Trees, if they work, that's great. We just want to study so we can see what solutions are in place to make this a safe neighborhood again. Thank you.
Thank you. We're almost at the finish line. Nancy Gerton again, and Jennifer Brennan is the last speaker. Were there other people who signed up? Why don't you guys, I believe you, why don't you guys come on up? Well, there's only 3 seats, so you could hold on for a second, so you don't have to stand. No, please, please. Yeah. Please.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Brennan. I live in Hollywoodland. Our little neighborhood was never meant to host all the tourists of the world. The situation in Hollywoodland has become untenable, dangerous, and out of control. The amount of car traffic has risen exponentially and only getting worse each year. The sheer number of cars parked illegally and backing up our winding roads is completely unsustainable. The situation on Mulholland Highway is extremely concerning. At any given time, there are multiple cars stopped illegally along the road while people get out to take their selfies. This creates utter mayhem as cars swerve around these illegally parked cars. It's become absolutely lawless in Hollywoodland, with tourists defying all of the signs, whether that's parking in front of no parking anytime signs, smoking in front of no smoking signs, littering, or blatantly blazing trails where there's no trespassing signs. Tourists just don't care that they're violating the rules or potentially causing fire accidents, or that they're decimating fragile wildlife habitats. It's a lawsuit waiting to happen. We need serious solutions now. I'm in favor of the tree planting along Mulholland, but also we need a 7-day dawn to dusk permit parking and increased police presence. Thank you.
Please state your name for the record.
Soren Kirk. I'm thrilled that our neighbors, our neighboring group, are also in favor of replanting the Vista. What some don't seem to understand is that they drive through our neighborhood to get to the Vista. We are one in this. Piecemeal stabs at this project do not work. You've been doing that for 3 or 4 or 5 years, and here we are. So we need something much bigger. But certainly you need to replant the Vista and redirect people to official entrances to the park. But we need something much bigger than this. We need you to concentrate your efforts on building a world-class tourist situation in Hollywood business land, not in Hollywood neighborhoods. And I happen to have a proposal here, and I would like to give this to you and to give it to every council member, especially Councilman O'Farrell, and anybody else who wants one.
Thank you. If you could pass the microphone over.
Yes.
And then with the final speaker, you want to come on up as well? Go ahead.
My name is Jim Van Dusen, and I live in Beechwood Canyon. I'm on the Hollywood United Neighborhood Council representing Beechwood Canyon and chair of the Planning and Land Use Management Committee. However, I'm speaking today as a resident only. The author of the Dixon study has stated that the study results were not comprehensive due to the limited amount of monies available to the contract. The mitigation measures implemented throughout the Hollywood sign adjacent areas have proven to be Band-Aids only as the crowds keep increasing and overwhelming the mitigation measures. The crowds are projected to keep increasing through the Olympics and beyond, further guaranteeing that the various ad hoc mitigation measures will continue to fail. Besides the questions of legality of the view site and other visitor sites throughout the area, the fact of the mammoth and increasing sizes of safety and fire issues caused by the crowds, coupled with the limited scope of the Dixon study, argues strongly for a comprehensive environmental impact report so that the overall problems can be squarely addressed and resolved. The applicant's appeal is based on solid legal reasoning and common sense and should therefore be granted.
Thank you. Last speaker, and if there's anybody else who thought they signed up but didn't sign up, come on up. Please come on up. Please come on up. Okay, go ahead, sir. If you can state your name.
Thank you for your time. My name is Matthew Carlisle. I live at Mulholland Highway, the corner of Durand, 25-year resident. On April the 29th last year at 9 p.m., my 15-year-old daughter collapsed. Falling unconscious in our home, we immediately called for an ambulance. The ambulance took 15 minutes to arrive while we performed CPR numerous times to resuscitate her. Again, this was 9:30 at night. She was rushed to hospital and had 9 hours of emergency surgery to repair a ruptured brain aneurysm. If this had occurred at any time during the day, the ambulance would have been severely delayed due to tourist traffic, and we would have lost critical minutes waiting for the ambulance to arrive, and then it would have struggled to get down the hill. We are very lucky this happened at night. Our neighborhood cannot sustain the volume of tourist cars along with the hikers, and it's a matter of when and not if before there's a serious accident with tourists. There are risks from rattlesnake bites, and it would take a long time for the ambulance to get up there, and timing for this critical issue and care is crucial. Fire is a huge issue, and evacuating the canyon would be chaotic and impossible given the current volume of tourist vehicles. Our streets are not safe. Please take action immediately.
Thank you. Please state your name.
Hi, my name is Carolyn Lutzinger. My husband and I have lived up in Hollywoodland all our married life, 11 years in Woodshire Drive, and we built our house on Deronda in 1973. We're a very active group in Hollywoodland. We have a large and active homeowners association. We vote, we pay our taxes, and we need your help. I count coming home from church from the light of Hiramoya up to the market, about 2 miles, 40 to 50 cars coming down on Sunday. That's too many. They park in front of my house. They get out because I have a good view. They get out. They park in the middle of the street. They get out. They leave their doors open to take pictures. We need some help. So think of us rather than tourists and help us. Please come up and visit. Have all of you been to Hollywoodland? Come up. See what we're like. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Leon Marx. I'm probably in the sort of a ground zero of it. I live in a house that's colloquially known as Madonna's house. So my driveway points right at where all the tourists are. And of course, my driveway is constantly blocked. And some tourists are polite and others are not, and they don't move, and I'm stuck. I can't tell anymore. There are no public bathroom facilities, so a lot of people just make their way down my driveway and relieve themselves, right behind my walls. So it's hugely annoying. From what I can see, because I see the trajectory of it, every year, every summer, it gets more and more difficult. I suspect it's going to end up in a disaster, and I think you should do something about it, and be on the side of the people.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. So I think that closes public comment. I think we've had over 40 speakers, and I very much appreciate your participation and many of you who still stayed. And, before I call the city attorney and Recreation and Parks to come to the table, I do want to give a little bit of background. I first encourage for many of you to read the Dixon study, Dixon report, if you have not already. There's multiple ideas that you have already brought up yourself. And first and foremost, I want everyone to know here, the Dixon study is not what we're voting on today. We are voting on just the appeal that was filed by some of the neighbors on some of the neighbors for the tree planting, okay? So I want to say, when I was elected, I'm sorry, what's going on here?
I didn't mean to disturb, but I was wondering if you would hear from the appellant.
Actually, we did not know the appellant was gonna, but.
Well, I think.
So the appellant was already heard, right? Okay. So you did not sign. You should have signed up, and you should have identified that you're an appellant. We could give him 5 minutes to state your case.
I
Okay?
appreciate it. I
Sure.
thought it might be an automatic part of an appeal hearing.
No, you have to actually let us know you're here and sign up.
I
Please, go
thank you
ahead.
then, the council member. Honorable Chair Rube and committee members, my name is Douglas Karstens for the committee to save the Hollywood Land Specific Plan. I'd like to just take a few minutes and also give 1 minute to Crosby Doe, who is right here next to me. We filed the appeal on behalf of the committee. Our goal was to give and create this forum for public voices of concern in the Hollywoodland area. And the neighbors certainly have turned out in force and waited patiently, and we appreciate the serious consideration of the concerns and views. Our appeal is dated March 1st, 2019, but we included letters since September 9th, 2011, about 8 years ago, when Councilmember Labange was the office holder at the time. And we've not achieved satisfaction yet. We would like to see an environmental impact report for this tourist destination promotion project that the city is undertaking and has been undertaking for years now. It's never too late. This is the time to start. This appeal is about the Lake Hollywood and Upper Vista outdoor improvements, but the issues of concern are a lot bigger than that single most recent proposal. This appeal is the only chance there is or has been to address the larger issues about the city's ongoing series of projects, with the Upper Vista outdoor improvements being the latest. The improvements must be understood in the context of the long history of the city actions to promote tourist visitation to the Hollywood sign without addressing how those promotion efforts affect the health and safety and welfare of the residential neighborhoods nearby. The city, Council District 4, and we thank you,
has commissioned and accepted the Dixon Comprehensive Strategies Report, with its series of recommendations for improving access, stability, and mobility around Griffith Park and the Hollywood sign, dated January 2018. But the report is not a project, and it is not an EIR. The city has not described its actual project or presented alternatives or mitigation measures for its decision, as would be presented in an actual environmental impact report or EIR under CEQA. Instead, the city has focused on minor actions such as the outdoor improvements that are the subject of this appeal, and has claimed that each individual minor action is too small to be subject to CEQA. The city's project is doing nothing less than promoting the Hollywood sign as an international tourist destination, with the Hollywoodland area impacted as ground zero, as one gentleman referred to it. We would like recognition of what the project is. Recognition and acknowledgement is the first step to a cure. We are at wit's end about what to do about the additional crowds and cars and noise, inaccessibility, and public safety threats created by the city's promotion of this international tourist destination project in this high fire hazard zone growing year after year. There are some recommendations in the Dixon report that are worth exploring. I think one speaker mentioned this is actually strategy 7-1 about view sites. There are some that are worth rejecting outright and some in the middle. However, the city should undertake its promotion project in a methodical and orderly way, which would be done in a CEQA review process, a comprehensive study people have asked for. And this recommendations could be implemented, some could be rejected, some could be modified, but it's the process that we think a lot of people are asking for. The city must stop the haphazard approval of one specific action after another in a piecemeal fashion without looking at the big picture effects of how all the actions fit together in a single project. We ask that you grant this appeal, start the EIR now, and then that the city act in a coordinated fashion that identifies the overall project the city is undertaking as promotion of Hollywood sign tourism, prepare that EIR, address the impacts of the project, propose mitigation measures and alternatives, and conduct it in a public process. We ask that you protect these neighborhoods. It's your duty and your job, and we really appreciate your help in approaching that. With that, I am reaching the end where I'd like to introduce Crosby Doe for the last comments. Thank you.
And Crosby, go ahead. I'll give you another 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you, Councilman Rue. I'd like to first state that in regard to this one appeal, that, you know, I'm embarrassed for the city that they have to present false pictures of what this proposal, the latest proposal is, and it's clearly false, and it's represented even by your Shannon Pryor, who says, "I'm sorry that that the renderings do not reflect what we're really going to do." It's unfortunate that you've had to resort to subterfuge and dishonesty to move this project step by step by step since 2011 to where all of these people are affected. And you have no accountability. And rather than using the attorney's office to effectively find a solution, you use the attorney's office to find ways to get around doing it the right way. We only ask that you reconsider what's happening here and look to your first responsibility of protecting the homeowners and neighborhoods, and start out right now. This was the first time you identified this as a project.
Good hold your applause, please.
The first time you've identified this as a project, but it's been a project from way before. I've got 36 seconds. It started with a wonderful lady who was all for Hollywoodland and all for Hollywood. Her name was Marion Gibbons, and she said, "Oh, where do we go? Where everybody wants to know, where can people go to see the Hollywood sign?" That was in the 1980s. And Tom LaBonge came to my house looking down and decided, well, this is where they go. But you know what? You did it the wrong way, in an illegal way, and one that hurts all these people very dearly, and many, many more, and has such a safety risk that you're going to have a death there at some point.
Continue. Go ahead. Finish up.
So all I can say is, here are cries. Please take it under yourself to do this right, and step back. You can fence off the whole area very easily with construction fencing. Stop the tourists from coming there until you really figure out the right solution. And I thank you for the time.
Thank you. If you could hold your applause, please. If you could hold your applause, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. And that closes public comment, and we heard just from the appellant. And again, I just want to say, the Dixon report, whether you like it or not, whether you like components of it or not, or components that you hate, that is not what's being decided today. And by the way, I hear a lot of people who want a comprehensive plan done. The Dixon study has been done for 2 years. I think it's more than about time that something has to be done. I don't think you want yet another comprehensive report. That'll take another 2 years with no action whatsoever. But please excuse, we're going to have to escort you out of the room. I mean, everyone afforded the audience respect to hear out every single speaker. We have to follow Robert's Rule of Order and protocol that's set here in the City Council. If there's any outburst, we're going to have to ask you to leave, just like how we ask the gadflies that come here all the time. So we have to be consistent in our rules, and that's part of what the City Attorney has asked us to do. So I just want to say, when I was elected, I was committed to working with residents and stakeholders in the Hollywood Hills to address the many tourism and transportation challenges this community faces. And I can confidently say, whether you agree or disagree, there is no other council member or council office that has spent the time that my office has spent in your neighborhood. And I will confidently say that whether you agree or disagree. In 2017, as a matter of fact, my office hired Dixon Resources to evaluate circulation, congestion, and access issues near the Hollywood sign and around the western side of Griffith Park, and provide recommendations to address those issues. We engaged more than a dozen stakeholder groups in the area and asked for feedback on the issue and proposed improvements. The outreach was exhaustive. The input from the community was thorough and crucial to guiding this report. After more than 2 years of work just on the Dixon study by Dixon, city staff, and hundreds of community stakeholders like yourselves, a report was presented that included a number of potential solutions in January 2018. Again, we are not debating those solutions, whether you like it or not, or what's missing or what's not. Some of those recommendations were approved by the City Council and others were not. Now, from the 21 recommendations that were approved, and by the way, if we wanted to do a comprehensive ER for those EIR as requested for those 21 recommendations, it would delay the entire process for yet another 1 to 2 years at minimum. So no tree planting, no nothing for the next 2 years. But I just want to say, from those 21 recommendations, there were 2 recommendations. 1, the planting at Lake Hollywood Park, and 2, the installation of additional wayfinding signage that were referred to the various city departments for further evaluation. And more importantly, I'd like to point out that from those 2, the tree planting, and as witnessed today here, the tree planting at Lake Hollywood Park was one of the items that were hands down most supported, fully supported by all stakeholders. Every single one of you supported the tree planting. Not one person, no one from the Department of Transportation, no one from Recreation and Parks, no one from the city or the community locally in your neighborhood or citywide raised concerns against it. Everyone, including the multiple community interest groups that are in your neighborhood and often oppose each other, and including the appellant, agrees, was on board. So it's very, very interesting that the one recommendation that's before us today about tree planting is being held up in an attempt to stall the Department of Transportation's evaluation of a completely separate recommendation from the Dixon study. I am very proud to work with my community, and I meet with those who agree or disagree in all matters that affect the neighborhood. But cynical, underhanded moves achieve nothing. Not for our neighborhoods, not for our city, not for anyone. So I'm going to now ask the Recreation and Parks to come on up and ask Tim. Is Tim here? to walk us through what we have before us. And I think it's clear that I'll be looking to this appeal with a very skeptical eye. So, Tim, the floor is yours. Can you tell us what's before us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tim McWilliams, Assistant City Attorney. Perhaps I can just give you a framework with which you could approach the legal questions before you. Much of what's before you are factual, and for all the factual issues, I'll defer to the department to lay out their position on those. With the CEQA appeal, the first question would be, does substantial evidence support the board's determination that the project is eligible for one or more CEQA exemptions? So those exemptions, as laid out in the department's response to the appeal, are that the project is a minor alteration of an existing facility that does not that results in negligible or no expansion of use. There's another exemption for minor alterations in the condition of land, and there's a specific example given in the guidelines of the planting of vegetation and landscaping. And then there's a third exemption proposed, which is minor trenching and backfilling. So your task as to the first question is, does substantial evidence support the use of those exemptions? Substantial evidence essentially being, could a reasonable person view the evidence and conclude that the project is eligible for those exemptions? Secondly, the written part of the appeal, although not really much said on it today, the appeal does assert that there are cumulative impacts caused by this project which need to be studied. Cumulative impacts are impacts that result from a series of similar projects resulting in similar impacts in the same area. And then lastly, what has been presented most by the comments here today is the third issue of piecemealing. Essentially, CEQA prohibits an agency from taking a larger project, chopping it up into small pieces, and just putting blinders on and focusing on one piece and saying that particular piece is exempt without giving consideration to the larger context with which that piece is being undertaken. So I would suggest that in viewing the piecemealing question, the focus would be on, does the proposed project have independent utility? In other words, is it designed to address a problem at the particular location, and does it in fact address that problem without giving rise to the need to do something else in the future to give validity or meaning to that project? In other words, if you do this project, is it going to compel you to do other projects? For example, other things that were called for in the Dixon report. So that's how I would suggest you approach the piecemealing question.
That brings up a couple other questions. So can someone walk us through what the actual proposed improvements at Lake Hollywood and Upper Vista consist of? What we're actually talking about here?
Sure. Daryl Ford, Recreation and Parks. Council members, the proposed project is essentially landscaping and irrigation that will be located just above Lake Hollywood Park on the western side of Mulholland. Again, as described in both the department's report and the staff report in the file. That's essentially the entirety of the project. There'll be some decomposed granite that'll go in as well. But the reality is it is some landscaping, some trees, and a variety of agave species will be planted again. The project is really just that scope. And again, the purpose of the project is public safety. The purpose of the project is really to plant these trees in this area. There's clearly an identified public safety issue here, as well as the agave species as well, to discourage folks from getting out of their cars or stopping in this particular location. But it's landscaping, it's irrigation, it's a very straightforward project.
So again, and you stated my next question I was going to ask you, the goal of these improvements is pretty much to stop this, right? Because you will have trees, you will have vegetation that will prevent cars from parking where they should not be. There's no curb, there's no way. They're literally on a cliff. And also, it will stop, and thank you for these pictures, by the way, it will also stop this, where people are seeing the Hollywood sign as presented by many of the speakers here, who said they see the Hollywood sign right away and they stop thinking that there's nowhere else they could park, nowhere else they could go, so they stop here. So hopefully when this is all done, the trees, and it might take some time for them to grow, will create a wall to prevent this from happening. So that's the goal. Great. What's the basis for the Board of Recreation and Parks Commissioners' approval of the Vista improvements and determining the project was exempt from CEQA?
Yes. Paul Davis for Recreation Parks. I'm the environmental supervisor. So I think Attorney McWilliams has laid out the framework that we used in this case. We provided our board with substantial evidence that this project would qualify for categorical exemption under several categories, and he laid out exactly what those are. We always determine whether or not there's an exception to any of those exemptions, and that includes if there's any cumulative impacts that might be associated with the project that would invalidate those exemptions. With regards to piecemealing, this project was presented to the board as a standalone project. It was not intended to be part or parcel of a much larger project, and so based on that, we felt that it was not considered piecemealing at all.
Great. And I'm sorry the appellant did not want to stay behind, and or nor his attorney, but has the appellant submitted evidence that the project will cause a cumulative impact?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, and last question. CEQA precludes an agency from chopping one, you've answered this, but I want to make it crystal clear. CEQA precludes an agency from chopping one large project into a series of smaller projects to avoid environmental law. Just to be crystal clear, for this particular project, is this project part of a larger project and the city has engagement, or has the city engaged in piecemealing under CEQA?
Well, I think, not to dodge the question, but it's a factual question to be decided by you as the sort of the arbiter here. In other words, you would need to decide, does the proposed project stand on its own? Mm-hmm. Or does it require the city to do something else in the future, some other project, to give meaning to what's proposed here?
Thank you. I appreciate that. And colleagues, with all that information that we heard before us, I think it's very important that while there is a greater Dixon study that has a lot more recommendations, a lot more strategies, that's not what's before us today, and it's about the appeal. And I recommend that the Department of Recreation and Parks report to deny the appeal and determine that the project is categorically exempt under CEQA so that we can address these issues immediately. Because this area, which I agree with every speaker here, needs some immediate relief. While this is not going to solve every single problem faced in this neighborhood, this will be one step, one independent project that will help address some immediate public safety issues. So, Mr. Price, do you have any questions?
Well, just let me say, I certainly appreciate the advocacy of the neighbors and their concern, their ongoing concern. Obviously, they're living with this issue on a day-to-day basis, and we're trying to balance the equities as we come up with the proper solution. The councilman pointed out there have been a number of studies, some long-standing studies on this, and I think everyone wants to, first of all, see some action taken. No one wants to have another year or two of studies. So I support the chair's position on this in the recommendation to deny the CEQA appeal so we can move this forward. In terms of the trees, though, I'm curious. One, how many trees are going to be planted? What types of trees? And how long is it going to take for them to grow in some way that will provide the kind of buffer that we were talking about?
So, Councilmember, again, Darrell Ford, I can answer the portions about the trees. So, in the report that was approved by the department, we called out the 20 trees that would be planted. 11 of those would be essentially California pepper trees, and 9 of those would be teepee trees. So, the idea was, yes, that eventually they would grow to block that, but I can't tell you here today how long that would take. But
well, I'm sure that'd be something that the neighbors would like to know. They have some understanding of how long these trees are going to, how long it's going to take these trees to grow into the kind of buffer that we've been talking about. So
we can work with urban forestry and get to the neighbors on their projections on growth. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So with that said, thank you so very much. Since there is no additional questions or objections, I'd like to move it as so ordered. Seconded by Price?
Second.
No. Great. Thank you. Do we have any other business before us?
No, we don't.
No. Thank you, and this meeting is adjourned.